right, David. It looks like we're live right now. So there's a couple of hiccups along the way as we've been doing this at home. So I'm starting to speak right now, and I'm going to be hitting refresh on my phone in a minute just to make sure that we are streaming. But my name is Tom Galati. This is Cruising the Pike, Cars and Comedy with Tom Galati, and we have a very special guest tonight. Someone that I've known for a long time, a prominent member of the Long Island car community and nationwide car community, David Jacobson. Welcome, David.
Hey, Tom. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So we're going to be talking about a lot of the different things that you're involved in, and everything seems to revolve around Porsches prominently. Tell me a little bit about how. So I met you through Collector Car Showcase. So take me through, if you don't mind, the genesis of Collector Car Showcase and how that came to be initially.
I'm going to change this so I can see you. For some reason, I can't. All right, there you go. So, Collector Car Showcase was, when I first met you, was pretty much everything. All cars, muscle cars, European cars. And it was just really to bring the car culture, like to have a place on the island that people can come to and do cars and coffee and get together and have different types of events. And it was, I think we opened up in 2006, and it was a lot of fun. It really was something that was a vision, a dream, and it was about 5 minutes from my house. It was a place I could store some cars and get together with friends, and we had a great time there. It was a lot of fun for many years.
And it's funny, when I first went there, you had a really vast array of cars. It was prominently Porsches, but you had some really cool eclectic cars there too. And then you slowly, from what I remember, you slowly started to change the complexion of the collection there to all Porsches. So you started selling off cars.
Yeah, that was very bittersweet, because, again, we had GT350, small block vets, big blocks. We had, 67s, mid-years. We had Chevelles. We had Camaro. It was an amazing place for muscle cars. And I still get hate mail to this day, because when we opened up, it was Collector Car Showcase. Right. And I remember that everyone came there with their muscle cars. Everyone was so happy. And as we changed it, we got some real pissed off people, man. I'm telling you. And I don't blame them, because it was very difficult for me to do that, because I really love those cars, and business took us in a different direction, but it was a slow transition. But yes, at the beginning, it was really an eclectic collection of different types of cars, but predominantly it was really about muscle cars. It really was. And most of the people like yourself that came in there were really digging it. We had a muscle car show. We had a hot rod show, which I still can't believe. I'm talking about hot rods, like, right. Real, what do they call them? What year is that Ford that they made?
Like a 30 Ford or Ford. Yeah.
I'm talking about major hot rods, cool, great stuff, and that was the community. That was the guys that were hanging out at our place when we first opened up, and I had my Porsche collection there, and it was like you could almost see the lightning between it was such a different culture, but I dig it. I really do. I still have a soft spot in my heart for the muscle cars, and I miss them.
And now, so with Collector Car Showcase, what kind of came first? Was this like a passion project for you to look for a cool place to house your car collection and start to buy and sell? Or was this setting it up as ultimately like the end goal was to make this a haven for Porsches and grow your collection? Because I know you've talked a lot about how the Porsche market has just exploded, and the collectability of those cars and the value of those cars, especially the air-cooled cars, in the 70s before they switched over. So, I mean, that market has exploded. Was it changed after the true business aspect of it, or was that?
Man, I had no plan. I had no plan at all. I took this building, which was an old. It was an old woodworking manufacturer. They did wood furniture. They made wood cabinets and stuff. The building was strong enough. I went to a couple of towns that turned us down. They didn't want a car place there. For whatever reason, and I'm talking about 3 towns, not far away. And then by my house, I drove by one day and I saw this building, and it was for sale, and it looked big enough, and it was really weird because the downstairs level has a garage in it, as you know.
Right.
But then you go up the street, and then you can go in the back entrance, and you're upstairs.
Right.
So it was perfect.
And did you have to do a lot to the to the building structurally?
I had to do a lot. We did a lot to support it, to give extra support. I had a structural engineer work with me who we did what we had to do to make it safe. But there was no plan. There was no plan. And everybody that walked in there who had a brain said to me, "What the hell are you doing? There is no way you're going to sustain this." And, I just got out of selling a company that I had, and I was in a situation where I wanted to put some cars at a location. It was by the house, and I loved putting these cars together and having, don't forget, we had all the Petroliana.
Right.
I had like 17 gas pumps and signs from the 50s and 60s, and we had 1,000 signs. The Petroliana was out of control, and we had a museum. We put a little door with a little window, like a ticket booth. I was going to charge $5 to come in, $7. And then one day I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to charge people $7 to come in. So we gave that up. So it was like fly by your pants, And then we did a show, and we were charged for that. That one ended up being free. And I'm like, and again, every guy who was in the car business said, "What the hell is your plan here?" And they all knew eventually it would have to change. But we had some fun. And the muscle cars and all the Petroliana attracted people from all over the world. We had wonderful people come into the place. And then it turns out that we did a party one time. We did a fundraiser. We had 200 people in the place. It was the greatest party I've ever been to. The place looked amazing. People had so much fun. The passion and walking people around and talking about the cars and the Petroliana and stuff. And then we had another party and another party. And it was a lot of fun, but there was no money. It was really, it wasn't about making money. It was really a passion project that came to fruition. It was awesome. People loved it. And then when I turned the switch to get rid of a lot of the muscle cars, I got some hate mail.
Right.
People like you stopped coming by.
Yeah. So, I'm a Mustang guy, but the funny thing is I love all kinds of cars, and I went to a bunch of your events where you would have cars and coffee, and, a lot of mutual friends, a lot of great people that I've met along the way, people like Larry Risi and, Joe Siciliano, all people that are constantly singing your praises, and, you're very well respected in the car community. So I just felt like all these great people were gravitating towards you, and it kind of seemed like, I know you're probably saying it in jest a little bit about the hate mail, but, it seemed like no matter what, you always had a really cool, when you invited people to come down, you had a nice, cool collection of cars too.
First of all, Joe Siciliano, and he's very close to my heart. He's one of the guys that still comes around, gets his car washed with James, hangs out, wears the CCS hat. Now he's wearing the car market hat, and Riusi, he's a great guy, a very a super philanthropic guy, and talk about a guy that's respected in the industry. So I really appreciate that. That's coming from a great place, and I appreciate that. But you're mentioning guys that are great people, true car guys. When you talk about guys like Bobby Sands, who worked for us for a while, who's a good friend of mine, who's involved with with all different. These are the real car guys. And again, some of them are into Lamborghinis, and some of them are into Ferraris, some of them are into muscle cars and hot rods, and there's still always going to be some type of bond for the love of the automobile, regardless of what happens. And I always talk to and I speak to them every once in a while. Bobby and I keep in touch, and his first name just escaped me. Riusi,
Larry.
Yeah. Okay, Lawrence. Larry, who's super respected in the area. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago because I wanted to do something for COVID-19 for fundraising, and who am I going to call?
Right.
I call Larry.
Right.
And he gave me some good advice on what not to do.
Right.
We wanted to go to the hospitals and drive in and do something for the nurses. And he's like, probably not a good time to try to get into the hospitals. And he knows this stuff. He's got a lot of connections and stuff, Larry. So I appreciate those kind words because they, we all share the same passion.
Yeah, for those of you just tuning in, and I'm just checking down in the feed. So there's a live feed coming in here, David, within Facebook that I can see. So I see, a lot of the people who are big fans or have shows on Govs. I see Tina Janik, my sister Christine Galati. I know my parents are watching at home. You've met my father Richard and my mom Kathy. I see Gina Kangemi, Rich Rada, a lot of great people watching. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm going to be looking down to see if anyone has any questions. But for those of you just tuning in, we're with David Jacobson from Collector Car Showcase, P Car Market. We're going to be talking a little bit about all the different things that David's involved in the Long Island and national car community, or it's probably global at this point too with P Car Market, right?
Yeah, it's very global. We've when we made that turn, into the Porsche world, we started to expand rapidly, and P Car Market now after we just hit our 1 year anniversary, and it's off the charts. I mean, it is. We're selling cars and signage, Porsche related products all over the world. Australia, Germany, England, Canada's a big market for us. We could not be happier with the response that we've gotten globally. It really is very exciting.
But David, am I oversimplifying if I say P Car Market is like eBay just for Porsches? Is it?
Probably a little bit. Here's what it is. There's different products. Like everyone knows Bring a Trailer. Everyone knows eBay. Right. Everybody knows RM Auctions and Gooding and Meekum and Barrett Jackson. So and they're all going to be online now because with this COVID-19, even these destination pageantry auctions are really going. In fact, we had a meeting with Bonhams. We had a meeting with our Russo and Steele. And they're all looking to now go to online. Some of them are more prepared than others, But we are. It's a new platform for a lot of them, but for us, it's something we're very comfortable with, and it's really completely online now for us.
So, what's the benefit to someone looking to buy or sell a Porsche? It's just that this has become the ultimate destination for all types of collectible Porsches, and so. Yeah.
See, the Porsche community is very unique. And when you look at muscle cars, you look at Ferrari, you look at European cars, and everyone listen, I look at Mustangs, like behind you, I'm checking out these Mustangs, right? And I'm saying there is probably not a more rabid fan than Mustang and Mopar, right. Mopar, and then you have Ford, and everyone's crazy about their cars. Right. And I'm not looking to cause an uproar here, okay? Because believe me, I know the different segments of the market, but Porsche is really unique. We have, when you look, 70, I think I'm going to quote this right, 75% of every Porsche built is still on the road.
Oh.
Unbelievable.
Incredible, yeah.
Porsche has products that they came out with, like Apple CarPlay, different for 1960 automobiles that they're retrofitting in to look like old products that that work with new technology, and you can fill a huge stadium with the different products that Porsche offers and that are still relevant today. When you look at other makes, there are huge fans, but they're more segmented into much smaller groups. So the fact that we are a single mark product is really what separates us from everybody, because no one does that. And I demanded it. My guys questioned it. Hey, if we went into other European cars, we could be doing twice as much. I said, we built them, G program, we build the cars. Yeah. We sell the cars. We have the largest Porsche event on the East Coast of the United States that people come from around the world driven to America. We have technicians. We have technicians that are part of our team at P Car Market that help write our listings. So it's so well done, so professional, and so precise. And you need to be a specialist in an area to bring it to the level that we were hoping to bring it. So I have wonderful people that are very talented that worked at Collector Car Showcase and CCS Motors and that built G program cars, and they're all now part of the P Car Market team. these guys are all part of the team that are bringing, and we have signs from Italy. We just sold $30,000 sign, a dealership sign from a guy to a guy in Germany. A guy in Germany bought it through us from a guy I think he was in Illinois. And so we're selling a lot of the actual genuine Porsche signs. So it's all Porsche genuine stuff, Porsche cars from air-cooled to water-cooled and supercars, but all Porsche. And that's our plan to stick with.
That's really, really cool. So talk a little bit about, before we shift gears, and I want to talk a little bit about Driven to America, pardon the pun with shifting gears, but you shared a link to me that you're doing a virtual car show on P-Car Market, but it also has a great tie-in to a great charity that's super important right now. Talk a little bit about that.
So I like putting events together. That's part of my passion, is bringing people together in the Porsche community, and Driven to America, which I guess we'll talk about that, is so because we can't go out and get together. I mean, my favorite things are cars and coffee. We bring 300 cars to our little place, and man, nobody has more fun than that. It's so great. So I said, what are we going to do here, and how are we also going to be able to serve the community and also this pandemic? So, make a long story short, is what's close to my heart is the fact that when time goes on here, the food, not the food shortage, which is a whole different story, but there's people that can't afford to eat. I mean, I'm watching these lines, people waiting for grocery. The church I'm involved with served 400 people in a week to give them food. They couldn't even feed their kids because a lot of these people, they made cash. They didn't have any government support. They didn't get a check. And how are they going to get food? They were living paycheck to paycheck. There's no, imagine. So Feeding America, which is who we looked up and we spoke with, we said, let's do something to try to raise money and do our little part. I mean, we're going to do the best we can. So we did a couple of auctions on our site with one of the most world-renowned artists, Tanya Stadnik, who donated a beautiful painting and also a piece of luggage that came from Germany. She did auctions and gave all the money to the Feeding America. And now what we did here with the show is, so we put an auto show up and everyone can put pictures of their cars up all over the world. So we thought we would get like 30, 40, 50, 70, 100 cars. So I think we're getting close to 500. It will probably reach 500. I know it's in the 4 and change. But what happens, we said we'll give $2 per car, for every car that is listed. So I told people, every time you put a car up, we'll give $2. So make us spend money. Just keep putting cars up. So right. It's obviously going to be, we're going to want to give personally over $1,000 to it. And Haggerty Insurance, everyone knows Haggerty. Haggerty stepped up. They're a great partner of ours and a lot of the things we do. They're going to also match the $2. We're expecting a couple of other companies to match the $2. So my $2, Haggerty's $2, somebody else's $2. All of a sudden, maybe $10, $12 a car times 500. We can do something.
Make a difference, for sure.
Yeah, so it's a great show. People get this, and the cars are insane. And one of the things I love about it is that, I don't know if everyone knows Rod Emery and Will Hoyt. There are 2 hot rod builders of the 356 type car. And these cars are neck and neck for the number 1 position on the show right now, because everyone can vote. You can go on and vote. And the top guy is going to have bragging rights for the top car in the world. And right now, these 2 guys are like neck and neck. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins that. So everyone go out and vote on P-Car Market. But yeah, so the show's live. It's a lot of fun. People can get a cup of coffee and browse through 400, 500 cars. And they are absolutely stunning with great photography. And it's going to a great cause.
Great. And it's funny because I feel like the car guys on Long Island right now are chomping at the bit, and there's all these variations where, of course, people are doing these car parades for, if someone at a car club, the Mustang Club, for example, someone's kid had a birthday, so they did like 30, 40 cars, and they're all cruising by this guy's house. And there's actually one in Comac tomorrow. I was going to take my boys and just you park along a parade route that's mostly in a residential area, and it's one of the car clubs. I was going to look it up again to see which club. So I think all the car guys are chomping at the bit, and I think the next best thing, if you're not out there walking around at a live car, cars and coffee, this is the next best thing, and it's going to a great cause. So I'll share the link out on my page and in the feed, so I'll promote it too. So it's great. It's really nice you doing that. So I love the fact that the central hub for everything is Porsches, and I feel like you found all these brand extensions for it, right? Driven to America, talk a little bit about that.
So to kind of capsulize it, it's very close to my heart is Porsche coming to America, because there's a gentleman named Max Hoffman. They should make a movie about him. I actually contacted a guy who produces movies, and there will be a movie about this guy, and I hope I'm involved with it at some level. Max Hoffman was an Austrian Jew who went at that time of his life, he had relations with a Porsche in Austria, because that's where the Porsche family was from, and he went to Paris, and the Hitler threat was very strong there, so he had to leave, and the family hid him, and eventually found his way to New York, and he came with nothing. This is a guy who came with nothing, and he was obviously very smart, very entrepreneurial, had great entrepreneurial spirit. And he went into the jewelry business, the costume jewelry business, and made millions with his salesmanship. He was a very charismatic guy, tough guy, but a charismatic guy. And he then used with the money he had, he used his contacts in Europe and got Jaguar and different companies to give him some cars, and contacted Ferdinand Porsche and asked him to sell some cars. Can he sell some cars in America? So he did. He sold like 5 cars the first year.
And at that point, there was no distribution of Porsche.
There was no Porsche in America. He was the first one to sell the cars in America, and then opened up a dealership called Hoffman Motors in New York City, and which everyone knows, the Frank Lloyd Wright building with the circular showroom that eventually was Mercedes till they destroyed it, which is a whole other story, was Hoffman Motors. He was a very good friend of Frank Lloyd Wright. Anyway, so he brought these cars to America. The Speedster, he called up Ferdinand and said, hey, why don't we build a car for $3,000 that people could take to the track and take home? And he created the Speedster. He also was the one that sketched with Ferdinand in Manhattan during dinner, sketched the Porsche crest and said, hey,
really?
Yeah, he said, you know what? To have a car successful in America, you need an emblem. You can't just have a name. So they came out with the Porsche crest. And on and on and on. And then, I don't know if you know this, but the 507 BMW, come on, the most beautiful car I believe ever made. He convinced BMW to build the car, and he brought the car into America for America. That's what Elvis Presley got one. And it almost put them in bankruptcy because it was too expensive and almost destroyed the company. And the 300 SL, the Gullwing, the 300 SL, Max Hoffman. Right. Okay, and on and on and on. So the point is this guy is the most important and influential person in the history of the automotive industry regarding European cars. So we, meaning me and a team, decided that this guy cannot be forgotten. What's weird also is you got a Jewish guy at the time of World War II, right? Bringing cars into America, like
right.
I mean, the whole thing's crazy, right? But crazy things happen when crazy things happen. So he brought the cars in, and here you go. And then eventually, he broke ties because they didn't need him anymore. And then he had contracts with BMW. But anyway, so we decided to honor and celebrate him. And I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to end this. I promise you. But
no, it's fascinating.
You're not going to believe this. So I walk into my office one day, the CCS building, and Mike Breen, everyone knows Mike Breen, right? Another car guy. He worked at CCS for a while, a good friend of mine. Mike says, hey, some lady walked in here, and she says, you know Max Hoffman? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, he says, she's his secretary. And I was like, okay. He's been dead since 1981, but okay. Right. So he says, give her a call. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. So I called the lady up, and it turns out that the Hoffman Center, which I passed 4 million times on 25A.
25A, right?
Is next to now called the Heritage Gardening Center over there. Mutton Town.
Yeah.
It's Hoffman Center is his namesake. And I was like, wait a minute. So this is incredible. Ursula inherited all of Max's money when he died, and she used this fortune. This was his secretary, and it's not what you think. She was friends with the wife, When he died in 1981, his wife was way younger. She died in 1983. All the money was left to Ursula with some other family, but they had no children. To make a long story short, is Ursula bought this property, I think 75 acres in Muttontown, called it the Hoffman Center, and right down the block from my place is Max Hoffman's secretaries in the inheritance from Max Hoffman. So make a long story shorter, okay, she brings over pictures that no one's ever seen before. He brought the first Volkswagen into America in 1951. I have a photo of Max with a model introducing the car in Manhattan in 1951, and I'm like blown away. She's bringing boxes of pictures of Max and the 507. She brought me sketches of the 507 before it was a car. Albert Gertz was the designer of the 507, and Max summoned him to do the drawing. And she has that drawing. I mean, just unbelievable stuff. So that inspired me after meeting her and after doing all this and being so engulfed in this Porsche world. I said, can we do an event on your property honoring Max Hoffman? And it was a bad timing. Her husband had passed away, and she was a lovely lady. Had some tough time right there. But she said yes. And we did Driven to America, which was the name I had called it, Driven to America. And if you go on YouTube, there's an interview with me and Ursula that's called Driven to America before the Driven to America event. I just called it Driven to America. I interviewed her about Max, about how what it was like being his secretary and so forth. So all that came together after the interview. I forgot about that. And then we talked, and I said, can I do an event on the property? She said yes. And the people came out to support it. We had cars on Long Island. See, when you go to California, you go to an event, everyone has their car there. You don't have to ask anyone to bring a car. They all come out. You want to go to New York and do an event? I had to go beg people. I had to knock on doors and say, can you please take this? Nobody even knows you have this car. Can you please bring it? Right. And believe me, I don't like begging, but I was begging. And the first event was a tough one, and it was unbelievable. Fox 5 News was there, and blah, blah, blah. It was a great event. The second one was easier. More people came out, and we did it at the Seversky Center. And then last year, we did it at Fort Hill, and it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. So we're on the map. We had like 6,000, 8,000 people. We had 400 or 500 cars, and it was world class, and people from all over the world came. So we are very proud that and now the factory's talking about Max. People are talking about Max Hoffman. He's back in the news, and I think we're proud that we had something to do with that.
Right. That must feel really good for you to, really, help be a huge brand, a huge ambassador for him for, telling that story.
It is, because how can you lose that? Listen, I know that he's a tough guy, and I understand after learning more about him that people say, he was an ass, man. He was a tough guy. Even Ursula told me, she called him Maxie. She goes, you don't call him Maxie unless you know him. Right. He was a tough man. So, but he still should be remembered because of what he did. And we're proud about it. And unfortunately, the way it works is there's people talking about it, and we're not getting the credit that's due. Like, there was a big article that came out in one of the big magazines recently, and I was interviewed 20 times and asked for tons of information. The article came out, not one mention about Driven to America, not one mention about it. It's just the way of the world. So, we're doing our part. We're doing our part.
Right. So that's that. How was Ursula? Did someone point her in your direction, or did she literally drive past CCS?
You want to know something? She bought a car. She bought a Mercedes, one of those little sport utility trucks. She just stopped in to look at a car. When we were more like a little dealership that time, and she heard about us. So she heard about the Porsche stuff, and just came in and told Mike. Asked who's the owner, and Mike was there. I wasn't there at the time, and again, she said to Mike, "Can you have David call me in?" But she just came in. It was crazy.
Very, very fortuitous, right?
Unbelievable, really unbelievable.
So again, for anyone just joining, we're speaking with David Jacobson from P Car Market, Collector Car Showcase, Driven to America. Let's go a little further back. How did you get into cars, David?
My father was a car guy.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bayside. I grew up in Flushing. I was in, Casino Boulevard in Flushing. then moved to Bayside. And my father was a car guy. He loved cars. He had a Chrysler when we were younger. Never could afford anything crazy, and was not a mechanic. Always wished he was, because I'm not a mechanic, and I've learned a lot, and I'm well versed and very knowledgeable, but I can't really turn a wrench, and that's just one of the things I regret personally. But he was a big car guy. The love of the car in his to the core. So I caught that bug, and I always started. I bought my first car that I purchased myself. I found a 1969 custom Corvette sitting on the side of the road with this big ass rear end on it, big, and with a 470 horsepower, 350 worked car. It was beautiful. I bought the car, and what was really interesting is I bought the car off the side of the road for like 13 grand, and then I sold the car to some hedge fund guy for like 20 grand, like 4 months later, and I was like, "You can buy a car,
right?
Enjoy the car,
drive it, enjoy it, and make money,
and sell the car, make money." I was like, it's all timing, obviously, but It was interesting to me, rather than buying something new but just the smell. I'm not a big car show guy. I can be honest with you, like sitting there getting trophies and stuff like that. I don't mind. I mean, people love that, and that's okay. But to me, it was more about driving it and looking at it, and the smell of the car. I just was so proud to have that car. I'll never forget that car. Just a black '69 custom Corvette.
It's funny. My father was always into cars his entire life, and that's how I got the bug too. We would go to car shows all the time, and I just remember we'd wake up early on a Sunday morning, and you go to the different car shows, and I used to love all of them. Used to have some type of a swap meet component to them years ago, and now the one Long Island cars, the guy in Flower Fields, and then I know he also does Belmont. What's cool about those shows is that there's still plenty of rows. What's that?
Dean Ganji?
Yes.
Yeah. Good friend. Yeah.
It's always cool that they have, the rows of swap meet stuff. And I remember, at the time I bought a 67 Mustang GTA coupe with my dad. I split it with him when I was 15 years old. He wouldn't let me. I think we paid $1,200 for the car. At the time, I had a paper route. I was working at McDonald's in Sears in Hicksville.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I remember I'd been saving money, and I had enough money to buy it myself. But my father said, "Listen, I'll split it with you, so you're not spending a huge chunk of what you've been saving up. We'll build it up. We'll fix it together." But I wrote up a book to pay him off, and I was paying him off like $50 a month or whatever it was. But my grandmother used to always laugh because he never let me pay it off completely because he didn't want me to sell it or do anything without his input. So we would go to swap meets, and we would go to Englishtown. Englishtown would have a spring and a fall big swap meet, and all the show cars would be on the drag strip, and then it would just be acres and acres of swap meet stuff. And just everything was plentiful, and you'd go around, like you talk about the smells, like just the imagery of walking up and down these dirt paths, and you'd find a fender, or my dad he taught me that actually, you don't know where all these people are coming from, and everyone just wants to sell all the shit that they have. So I was looking for for a Mustang, the 67 and 68 fenders or quarters were generally the same, and a lot of interchangeable parts between those 2 years. And instead of right away, I would tell everyone, "Oh, I have a 67 Mustang. Will that seat fit my car?" And of course, the answer was yes to everything, right? Versus going back and saying, "Hey, what's that seat out of?" And let them tell you what year it's out of, so that you're matching it up.
Yeah, right.
But I always had a tremendous amount of respect that my father was an automotive inspector for the city, so he was on the back end of purchasing.
He was what? He was on the
back end of purchasing. He was an automotive inspector for the city of New York. So when the city would buy police cars, fire trucks, he was inspecting them before the city would make payment on it and take possession. And he was driving into Lower Manhattan every day for almost 30 years. So he always had a piece of shit that he was driving into the city because, he couldn't have something nice and either do that trip or park it under the Brooklyn Bridge where his office was.
Yeah.
So I always felt like, he was always sacrificing during the time of when my sister and I were going through school. And then finally felt great that once he retired, my sister and I had gone through college and everything, and he started to get some cool cars like he had when he was younger. And he's had some cool 442, and now he's got 2 cool Corvettes. So when we were growing up, he didn't have something cool and fun to drive. And I'm glad that he's been enjoying that in his retirement. And, but that was the same thing. I got the bug from him. And
what a great guy. Your father is, the few times I met your dad, he's like you, just such a grace. What a nice guy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I mean that.
For sure.
I'll never forget meeting you guys at was it Miko? No,
Derek Jackson.
Yeah, I felt like I knew him for like so many years. Your dad, he's such a warm guy. Guy.
No, it's funny. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
So talk to me too, because when I invited you to do this podcast, and hopefully once I'm back in the studio, so normally this show would be at Governor's Comedy Club. There's one show that continues to go on. It's a daily show from 11 to 12 because it's a husband and wife and they live together and they go to the show together. So it doesn't really matter.
Right.
And Governor's has its own separate entrance for the studio in the back so they can kind of come and go as they please. So once everything opens back up, I'd love to welcome you into the studio and do the show right. But I love the fact that I'm able to do this now because it's a great outlet for me. And I've been getting some great feedback, having some really interesting car people like yourself. But when I brought this to you, you also mentioned that you were going to be doing a podcast. Is that still in the works?
Yeah. We it's called Pike Car Market. Again, is blowing up, and we feel we have a lot to say. You know what I mean? Like when we have these auctions, we have thousands of people. We have we have about 400,000 people a month on the site. Wow. Massive. And more importantly, it's the growth that's more impressive. The point is that we're seeing comments. People comment, they bid, and I watch these personalities online bidding, and I watch people make comments. Sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're not so nice, and people want to know what the market's doing. What is the car worth? What does this COVID-19 mean for the value of my car? Porsche was like many other cars, but Porsche was going up for forever. I mean, Porsche was at a point where if you bought the car here, and eventually you were going to be right because it kept going up. You bought it wrong, you were going to be right. You bought it wrong, but all of a sudden one day it didn't happen anymore. Like 3 years ago, reality started to set in. So, what's the market going to do? What should I look for? Because within the Porsche community, there's a lot of subcultures. You have the air cooled, the water cooled, the 914s, the 911s. You have front engine, rear engine, race cars, collector cars, R groups. It sort of goes on and on and on. So we do everything on Pike Car Market. We have race cars and we have collector cars, but we also have donor cars. People who can build a car. So we feel between all of that stuff, and with the people that we have in our place, that we should be able to share some great information and be entertaining. I like this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a creative guy. I like to put shows together and stuff, and I like to talk to people. So we're gonna do it. We put together a studio, a beautiful studio. We invested in some real nice, professional equipment, and good, bad, and different. We're gonna do a thing called Pike Car Market Live. And we're taking our time getting it. We're going to have some cool guests from around the world, and it should get going soon. If you go on Pike Car Market, or if you go on our Facebook page, or Instagram or Facebook, you'll get a couple of test clips of us making fools of ourselves, or me making a fool of myself. While we're doing I just throw stupid stuff up there while we're testing it. So, but thank you, for mentioning it. It's going to be. We hope it's going to be something that people are going to enjoy watching. And I surely think the Porsche community is going to enjoy it because it's a direct hit.
What type of a rhythm are you planning on having? Is this going to be weekly, monthly? What are you thinking?
You know what? We're constantly changing it because listen, I have the attention span of a flea. You give me a 20-minute podcast and I'm gone. I don't care how good you are. I'm gone after like 3 minutes. I mean, maybe 3 minutes. So somebody else brought up to me who probably has the same attention span as I do, and they said, why don't you do an interview? An interview with someone that you really, a great interview, have fun. And then why don't you put into bite-sized digestible pieces into 3 minutes? So I love that. I mean, even this Sebastian Maniscalco, he does a routine, and I dig watching those 3-4 minute things. except when I'm falling asleep and after it ends, I have to go find another one.
Right.
But the point is that even now with this COVID thing, he puts on these 3-minute things, and they're digestible, and you can enjoy them, and it talks about something specific, and then you move on. So we're thinking of doing a big interview, maybe 45 minutes, and then maybe editing it down to maybe 6 3-minute shows. So the answer to your question is I'm not 100% sure yet, right. Because we can banter forever. You can go on and on and on, and then what we'll do is we'll chop it up so people can maybe just watch it while they're brushing their teeth or something silly like that. But we'll see. Right. We'll see. We're not 100% sure yet. That's
great. So so 2 more things as we wrap up. You mentioned the COVID thing, and that was going to be something that I wanted to ask you about. Of course, no one has a crystal ball to say, okay, well, we've hit the apex and now everything's going to start to get back to normal. And then come August, no one really knows. There's people talking about a second wave. And so, again, no one knows exactly what the future holds for this or when things are going to be back to normal. What is the health of the market right now? Because it's funny, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I had Mike DeLucia from Hollywood Motors. And, of course, he's looking at a vast array. He's got everything from, a $4,000 or $5,000, 1990 Cadillac all the way up through, a $200,000 Lamborghini. He's got a pretty wide selection. But, be curious to get your perspective of, how is this affecting the market right now?
Okay, so this is very odd, very weird, because when this happened, people are stuck in the house. We are an online auction. The viewership and the people, that's why we did this auto show, by the way, also the virtual one. But we have never been busier. Our daily views and our bidding and all of the stuff that's important to us is spiking. We had our best week last week. We have sold almost every car that came to auction. Yes, it's global, and yes, we're talking about, there's a big audience, obviously, but this is crazy. I mean, you're talking about car dealerships are suffering. I think what's going to happen is after this is over, because of the lack of production of automobiles, you're going to have a shortage, and the dealerships are going to be selling everything they have quickly. And I think there's going to be a frenzy of people buying cars. I really do. And they're going to run out of inventory very, very quickly. And you're going to see a dynamic of buying. Listen, there's going to be a massive problem with with money for people who are not getting back to work. But here's the thing is, I look at the world and I look at the food lines and I look at people suffering. And then I look at a car that we just sold for $250,000 where the person wasn't even affected by this. The world is crazy. So we are providing a service the best way we can, and the community in which we serve, there's going to be people that are just not affected by this. Some people, like, listen, so a lot of the people that are in the investment business love this. This up and down of the market, this volatile environment is where they make their mony. They hope for this every 10 years. So the world's crazy. Like I say, somebody's having a disaster, another person is making millions. So this is what we're doing. We're going out, we're putting great cars up. We think that the Porsche collector market is so strong. There are so many people that want these cars that it's we can feel it. We feel the power and the growth still happening during this, and it scares me. I'm like, how in the world are we growing right now when I'm watching the news? I mean, it just boggles my mind. When I go out and spend $50, $100, $200,000 for a fun car during this time, I don't know. You know what I mean? But so it's weird. It's weird. It's a weird dynamic. But in the market in a whole, I think. Remember in 2008 when the financial market crashed. Right. It was the best years for the collector car market. The best. Porsches flew up. Every car went up crazy because people were afraid of the market. They were afraid to put their money in the market. Real estate was so unpredictable. So I knew people that got into collecting cars that never collected cars before, and said, I got to put my money somewhere. So I kind of almost think that we're going to get a little bit of that because people are leaving Manhattan. Manhattan real estate's probably going to take a dump. Long Island real estate that's been sucking wind for so long is probably going to start going up a little bit now. And then people are going to be this volatile situation. I have cash. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to put it into collector car world. So I think there's going to be a little wave of people buying collector cars, putting their money into them and holding on to them. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a run there, a good run for the collector cars during a time when a lot of people are having a difficult time. It's a tough conversation. Does it make any sense?
No, absolutely. No, it's interesting to get your perspective for sure. It's funny. I'm in the advertising world. I work for an advertising agency, and we're seeing all these weird dynamics, just like you're talking about, where TV viewership is way up. There's some great buys to be had for marketers that are marketing what are considered to be essential products, especially even with Amazon. Amazon is prioritizing certain types of food products or home healthcare products, things like that. So I have a lot of advertisers that are taking, kind of doubling down a little bit and taking advantage of some of these great buys because TV has viewership way up, but then there's some great buys to be had if you're savvy and your product is considered to be essential right now. So it's a lot of really weird dynamics and
crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So my last question for you is someone who loves Porsches, isn't a heavy hitter, but wants to get into the hobby. What price range and what vehicle? Is it like a 924, 944, 928, one of those types of vehicles? Or I'd love to get your perspective there for someone who wants to, kind of jump into the Porsche world.
So if you look for the cheapest and best value, right? It's really the way I look at it. The cheapest cars, 914s, 924s. I mean, we have a 924 on Pike market right now that somebody's going to be able to buy. I'm not going to tell you the reserve, but I know the cars could sell, I don't know, $7,000, $8,000.
Wow.
I mean, you can get into a Porsche, that car maybe does 10,000, whatever. You can buy a Porsche for a pretty low price. Right. Then you have the 944s, 944 turbos. You can still buy these in for reasonable numbers. To me, when you get to the 911, and by the way, 928s, they're fabulous cars, right?
Right.
Cool cars.
I always thought the 928 was such a unique car, that the shape of the car and the pop-up headlights, the curved back, the 928s were a really cool car from my perspective when I was growing up.
Of course. Plus the fact that movie with Tom Cruise, right? It was,
right.
We all relate to the old Bad Boys, right? With the 3.6 turbo. Yeah. But so there's a lot of front engine cars, that are very reasonably priced to get into a Porsche. And when you talk to someone in their 30s or 40s ish, they love the 928s. Like I have a cousin of mine. I'm not a 928 fan. I'm not. I'll be honest with you. I think they're cool and I like them. But he's like, oh, when I post one, he's like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen because that's what he remembers as a kid.
Right.
But for pure driving, there's nothing like a 911. There's nothing like a 911. And the greatest value right now in 1999, Porsche came out with a water-cooled car for the first time because they had all air-cooled cars. And when they went to a water-cooled car, they also made those running headlights. Remember those headlights that were the first time they didn't use the round lights? They had this little caveat on there. It's called the 996. They were a bastard child for years, and everyone knocked it. Now they're becoming beloved. Everything that's weird becomes beloved.
Yeah.
Actually. So,
totally.
Bottom line is that car was dirt cheap, and now they're still inexpensive. They're not cheap anymore. So look at a 996, 1999 to 2004, turbos, C's, C2s, C4, C4S's, C4s. You can buy a really nice one of those cars. Really nice. Even on Pike market right now, there's one that's ending tomorrow, I think. I don't know what the reserve is on that. Don't hold me to it. But I'm telling you, you could buy a nice nine and you blow your mind how much fun that car is for probably in the 20s. And it's a 911. It's a 911. And the greatest thing about that car, it'll blow your mind. You'll drive the car for 5 to 10 years. And as long as you don't put hundreds of thousands of miles on it, I'll give you a guarantee. Bring me the car. I'll give you your money back because that car is going to be worth more than you paid for it. As long as you don't beat the crap out of it, put so many miles on it, but take care of it. Keep it as like a weekend car. And I'm telling you, the 996 is the best value out there right now.
That's great. All right. Well, remind me again, how does everyone find PCAR Market? Is it just PCARMARKET, PCARmarket.com?
Yeah, PCAR, a lot of Porsche guys and gals call Porsches PCARs. So PCAR Market is PCARmarket.com.
Awesome. So
that's Instagram, Facebook. We do a lot of social media stuff.
Yeah, actually, you always have a lot of really, really cool posts, and I always had fun following Collector Car Showcase, and so I'm going to spend some more time on PCAR Market. I'm going to check out the virtual car show. Kudos to you for donating money to charity to help promote that. So that's great. It was great having you on. I really appreciate your time tonight, David. It was great speaking with you.
Tom, it's been I haven't seen you in a long time, and I'm hoping you stop by the place when things get back to normal. And
will do.
All the best to you and your family. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. And maybe I'll find out when Joe Siciliano is getting his car detailed next time, and I'll meet him down there.
He's the only one I can count on is Joe to be there, and I love seeing him. He's such a great guy.
He's giving you promotional messaging that money can't buy. He's one of your best brand ambassadors.
You know what? You say things and you try to sound genuine. The guy is the salt of the earth. He's a genuine guy. You can see everything he does with his community, from his guys, from
with his fraternity,
and his charity, and him and his wife Ellen. It's good people.
Very, very good people.
Yeah.
The last thing I need to mention is my sponsor for today's show is Personal Touch Car Wash. I don't know if you've ever been by there, David, but they have 2 locations, one in Elwood, one in Bohemia. Paul and Mark there, very, very nice guys, and they're also very charitable. With the Michael Magro Foundation, you've been very generous too with making donations for raffle prizes, which I appreciate. Mark and Paul at Personal Touch have been extremely generous, very active in the community. They have a great way right now with completely touchless transactions, so you can go there and get your car washed. You don't have to get out of your car at all. So they're doing their best to help people drive nice, clean cars right now, especially with the car parades. So please check them out. You can find them online. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram. Personal Touch Car Wash of Bohemia, Personal Touch Car Wash of Elwood, also considered either East Northport or Dix Hills there. So big thanks to them for their sponsorship. And again, David, thank you so much. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.
All right, Tom. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.